The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Ambassador Krelton of the Draxi Federation walked inside, his four purple eyes scanning the room filled with representatives from across the galaxy. His scaled hands clutched a small data tablet as he made his way to the speaking platform. "Council members," Krelton began, his voice echoing through the crystal halls. "We gather today to discuss old records found in the Outer Rim archives. Some of you believe these stories about ancient warriors called humans." A ripple of whispers spread through the assembled aliens. The Zephyrians fluttered their wing membranes nervously, while the rock-like granite lords remained perfectly still. At the back of the chamber, Elder Archivist Velnara clutched her walking staff tighter. Council Prime Thexmore raised one of his 8 tentacles for silence. His massive bulk filled the chair designed for his species. "Ambassador Krelton speaks. Truth. These human stories are nothing but ancient tales told to frighten young ones." Velnara stood slowly, her old bones creaking. Her once bright scales had dulled to gray with age, but her eyes still burned with intelligence. "Council Prime, with respect, you dismiss what you do not understand. I have spent 400 years studying these records." "Old female," Krelton sneered. "Your time would be better spent on real threats, not ghost stories from dead worlds." The archivist activated her datapad. Holographic images filled the air above the assembly. Ancient star charts showed a small yellow star with 9 planets. The third planet glowed blue and green. "Earth," she said simply. "Home of the humans. Our records show they once traveled between stars, fought wars across galaxies, and built cities that touched the clouds." A young Nixari diplomat laughed, his insect-like features clicking with amusement. "Archivist, our best ships took 300 years to reach that system. We found nothing but empty space and a dead rock. No cities, no technology, no life." "Because you looked with blind eyes," Velnara replied. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. "The humans were not like us. They did not build monuments to themselves. They built weapons that could crack planets. They fought wars that lasted centuries. And when they were finished fighting, they vanished." She changed the holographic display. Now it showed ancient battle reports written in dozens of different languages, ships burning in space, planets evacuated in panic. Military records spoke of human fleets that appeared from nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. "The Karathi Empire controlled half the galaxy before humans arrived," Velnara continued. "Within 50 years, the Karathi were extinct. The Velkari, Dominion ruled 1,000 worlds. The humans reduced them to 3 systems in a decade." "Impossible," muttered a crystalline delegate. "No single species could defeat such powers." Velnara smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "That is what," the Karathi said. "That is what the Velkari believed. They called humans primitive apes from a backward world. They laughed at human technology, human ships, human weapons." The hologram changed again. This time it showed weapon signatures that made no sense to modern science, energy readings that exceeded anything the current galaxy could produce. Ship, designs that seemed to bend the laws of physics. "The ancient texts speak of something called human fire," the archivist said quietly. "Not actual flames, but something deeper. A burning will that never died, never surrendered, never accepted defeat." Council Prime Thexmore slammed a tentacle on his desk. "Enough of this nonsense. Even if these humans existed, they are gone now. Dead for 3 centuries. Our surveys confirmed Earth is lifeless." "Your surveys," Velnara said carefully, "found what the humans wanted you to find." The chamber fell silent. Every eye, sensor, and optical organ focused on the old archivist. "What do you mean?" asked a small voice from the Trader Guild section. Velnara walked closer to the center of the chamber. Her staff tapped against the crystal floor with each step. "The records speak of human deception tactics. They could make their ships invisible. They could hide entire fleets in empty space. They could make living worlds appear dead to any scan." "You suggest they still exist?" Krelton's voice rose in disbelief. "I suggest," Velnara said slowly, That a species capable of destroying galactic empires might be capable of hiding from galaxy surveys. She activated one final hologram. This one showed a simple message written in ancient human script. Below it, a translation appeared in Galactic Standard. We do not forget. We do not forgive. We are always watching. The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Some delegates laughed, others argued, but many sat in thoughtful silence. The message was found on Karathi Prime, Velnara announced over the noise, carved into the throne room of their last emperor. It was dated 1 year after the humans supposedly vanished forever. Council Prime Thexmore called for order, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Even if true, this changes nothing. We are the Galactic Council. We control trade, military forces, and communication across known space. Velnara gathered her datapads and began walking toward the exit. At the chamber doors, she paused and looked back at the assembled representatives. The humans had a saying, she called out. Those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Perhaps you should remember that before you dismiss them as myths. The doors closed behind her with a soft whisper, leaving the council chamber filled with uncomfortable silence and growing doubt. Captain Dexara stared at her ship's control panel with growing confusion. The Void Stalker had been patrolling the outer edge of known space for 3 months without finding anything unusual. Now, her instruments were showing readings that made no sense at all. Lieutenant Vexstar, she called to her communications officer, run another diagnostic on the sensor array. These numbers cannot be correct. The young officer's tentacles danced across his console. Captain, I have run diagnostics 7 times. The equipment is working perfectly. We are detecting massive energy signatures from the Sol system. Dexara's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. Sol was the official name for the dead star system where Earth supposedly existed. According to all records, nothing lived there. Nothing had ever lived there. Energy signatures from what source? She asked. Unknown, Captain. The patterns do not match anything in our databases. But the power output is enormous. Larger than our biggest space stations. The captain moved to the navigation station where Ensign Kolnex was studying star charts. His rock-like skin had turned pale gray, which meant he was worried. Ensign, how long until we reach the Sol system? 2 hours at current speed, Captain. But I must advise caution. Long-range scans show anomalous readings throughout that region of space. Dexara considered her options. Her patrol ship was fast but lightly armed. If something dangerous waited, in the Sol system, the Void Stalker would not survive a real fight. But her orders were clear. Investigate any unusual activity in this sector. Continue on course, she decided, but charge all weapons and prepare to jump to hyperspace if needed. 1 hour later, Lieutenant Vexstar called out from his station. Captain, I am receiving transmissions from the 3rd planet in the Sol system. The signals are very strong. What kind of transmissions? Communications, Captain, but the language is not in our translation database. The computer cannot identify it at all. Dexara felt a chill run through her body. An unknown language meant an unknown species. In this region of space, that should be impossible. Every world within 50 light years had been surveyed and catalogued. Can you isolate the signal? Yes, Captain. Playing now. Strange sounds filled the bridge. The language was unlike anything Dexara had ever heard. It had rhythm and flow almost like music, but underneath the alien words, she could hear something that made her nervous. Organization, purpose, intelligence. Lieutenant, are these random transmissions or directed communications? Directed, Captain. Multiple sources are talking to each other using complex protocols. This appears to be an advanced civilization. The Void Stalker dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. What Dexara saw through the main view screen made her heart stop beating for a moment. The 3rd planet was not dead. It glowed, blue and green and white, covered in swirling clouds and vast oceans. City lights dotted the night side like scattered jewels. But that was not the most shocking sight. Massive structures orbited the planet. Space stations larger than anything the Galactic Council had ever built. Shipyards that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. defense platforms bristling with weapon arrays that looked both elegant and deadly. "Captain," Ensign Kolnex whispered, "our passive scans indicate at least 40 major orbital facilities. The technology appears to be extremely advanced. Are we being scanned?" "Yes, Captain. Multiple sensor beams are examining our ship. They know we are here." Dexara's mind raced. This changed everything. The reports about Earth being dead were completely wrong. Not only was there life here, but this civilization possessed technology that exceeded anything she had ever seen. "Lieutenant Vextar, send a standard first contact message. Use all diplomatic frequencies." "Yes, Captain." Message sent. They waited in tense silence. The response came within minutes, but not from her communications console. Instead, text appeared directly on the main view screen in perfect galactic standard script. "Welcome to the Sol system. We have been expecting you." Dexara stared at the message. How could they write in galactic standard? How did they know her ship was coming? And what did they mean by expecting them? Before she could respond, her tactical officer called out urgently, "Captain, multiple contacts approaching. Large vessels, unknown configuration." Ships appeared on the view screen as if materializing from empty space. They were sleek and graceful, with smooth hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The lead vessel was twice the size of her patrol ship. "Captain," Vextar said quietly, "incoming transmission. Audio only." "Put it through." A calm voice spoke in accented but clear galactic standard. "This is Admiral Jiho of the Terran Defense Fleet. You are currently in human space without authorization. Please state your intentions." Dexara's hands trembled as she reached for her communicator. Humans. The species from the old stories was real. Not only real, but they had technology that could hide entire fleets and make dead worlds appear alive. "Admiral Jiho, this is Captain Dexara of the Galactic Council patrol vessel Voidstalker. We are conducting routine border surveillance. We had no knowledge that this system was inhabited. Captain Dexara, your government has listed Earth as a dead world for 300 years. We find it interesting that you choose to patrol near dead worlds." The human admiral's voice carried a hint of amusement that made Dexara even more nervous. "We will escort you to the edge of our space," Admiral Jiho continued. "Please inform your superiors that humanity has returned to galactic affairs. We suggest they update their records." As human ships surrounded the Voidstalker, Dexara began composing her report to Galactic Command. 300 years of assumptions had just been proven completely wrong. The great doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep rumble that echoed through the vast space. Every conversation stopped. Every eye, sensor, and optical device turned toward the entrance. For the first time in 300 years, humans were about to enter the chamber. Admiral Jiho walked through the doorway first. He was tall for his species, with dark hair and calm brown eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. His uniform was simple black fabric with no decorations except a small patch showing a blue and green planet rising over a gray moon. Behind him came General Minho, shorter but with broader shoulders. His face showed the kind of lines that came from making difficult decisions. Ambassador Yuna followed, her long black hair pulled back and her expression neutral but alert. The three humans walked across the polished crystal floor toward the center speaking platform. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. Around them, representatives from 200 species watched with emotions ranging from curiosity to fear to anger. Council Prime Thexmore raised his massive bulk from his chair. His 8 tentacles writhed, with barely controlled fury. "So the myths walk among us at last. Tell me, humans, what gives you the right to appear before this council as equals?" Ambassador Yuna stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly through the enormous chamber without any need for amplification devices. "Council Prime, we appear before you not as myths, but as representatives of the Terran Federation. We bring greetings from 47 colony worlds, 600 orbital habitats, and approximately 12 billion human beings." A wave of shocked whispers ran through the assembled delegates. The official records listed Earth as having 0 population. "Impossible," snapped Ambassador Krelton of the Draxi Federation. "Our surveys showed your world was dead. We found no cities, no technology, no signs of life whatsoever." Admiral Jiho smiled slightly. "Ambassador Krelton, your surveys found exactly what we wanted them to find. We have been perfecting stealth technology for 3 centuries. When we choose not to be seen, we are invisible." The Admiral activated a small device on his wrist. Suddenly, the air above the speaking platform filled with holographic images. Star maps showing human colonies scattered across dozens of systems, massive space stations hidden in asteroid belts, fleets of ships that seemed to bend light around their hulls. "We have been watching," General Minho said quietly. "We have seen empires rise and fall. We have observed your wars, your trade disputes, your attempts to bring order to chaos. We have learned much about the galaxy while you believed us extinct." Elder Archivist Velnara stood slowly from her seat in the observer section. Her ancient voice cracked with emotion. "I knew it. I told them you still existed, but they would not listen." Ambassador Yuna nodded respectfully toward the old archivist. "Your research was thorough and accurate, Elder Velnara. We have monitored your warnings to the Council for many years. Council Prime." Thexmore's tentacles slammed against his desk. "Enough of this theater. You are one species among hundreds. What makes you think you have any right to address this council? What gives you the authority to reveal yourselves now?" The 3 humans exchanged glances. Admiral Jiho stepped forward, and the holographic display changed. Now it showed weapon systems that made several delegates gasp in recognition. "We reveal ourselves because the galaxy is changing," the Admiral said. "New threats are emerging from beyond the rim. Pirates grow bolder. Some empires speak of conquest rather than cooperation. We believe it is time for humanity to take an active role in galactic affairs." "Active role?" The crystalline delegate's voice rang like broken glass. "You speak as if you have something to offer besides ancient stories and hidden colonies." General Minho activated another control. The holographic display now showed energy signatures that exceeded anything in the Council's databases. Ships that could travel between stars in hours rather than weeks. Weapons that could harness the power of entire suns. "We offer partnership," Ambassador Yuna said. "We have technology that could benefit all species. Medical advances that could eliminate diseases. Energy systems that could power entire worlds without depleting resources. Transportation methods that could connect the farthest reaches of the galaxy." The chamber erupted in excited chatter. The possibilities she described would revolutionize galactic civilization. "And what do you want in return?" asked a small voice from the Trader Guild section. "Equality," Yuna replied simply. "We will not be junior partners in someone else's empire. We will not bow to species who believe might makes right. We will not accept second-class status in our own galaxy." Ambassador Krelton rose from his seat, his 4 eyes blazing with anger. "You dare make demands of this council? You are newcomers to galactic civilization. We have maintained order for 1,000 years." Admiral Jiho's expression hardened. "Ambassador, we are not newcomers. We are survivors. 300 years ago, your predecessors declared war on humanity. They believed, us weak, primitive, easily conquered. They learned otherwise. The holographic display changed one final time. Now it showed historical records from the ancient wars. Entire fleets burning in space. Planets evacuated in panic. Military reports that spoke of human forces appearing from nowhere and vanishing just as quickly. "We did not start those wars," General Minho said quietly. "But we finished them. When the fighting ended, we chose isolation over domination. We could have conquered this galaxy. Instead, we withdrew and let you build your council in peace. Now we return," Ambassador Yuna concluded. "Not as conquerors, but as partners. We offer our hand in friendship, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. The choice is yours." The chamber fell silent as delegates contemplated humanity's return to galactic affairs. The age of myths was ending. The age of fire was about to begin. The Draxi War fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Admiral Kexval stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominion's Fist, watching the blue planet grow larger on his view screen. Earth looked peaceful and defenseless, just as intelligence reports had promised. Communications. Send the surrender. Demand, he ordered. His 4 purple eyes gleamed with satisfaction. The humans had embarrassed the Draxi Federation at the council meeting. Now they would learn the price of defying a superior species. Admiral, his tactical officer reported, we are detecting no defensive satellites, no orbital weapons platforms. The planet appears undefended. Kexval's mandibles clicked with amusement. Just as expected, these humans are all talk and no action. Prepare landing forces for planetary occupation. The surrender demand was broadcast on all frequencies. Attention, humans. You have 30 minutes to surrender unconditionally. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your cities and the enslavement of your population. The response came exactly 30 minutes later. Admiral Kexval, a calm female, voice replied, "This is Admiral Suna of the Terran Defense Fleet. Your demand is rejected. You have 1 minute to withdraw from human space before we respond with appropriate force." Kexval laughed so hard his entire body shook. Appropriate force? What force? Our scans show no ships, no weapons, nothing but empty space around there. Pathetic little world. His tactical officer frowned at his instruments. Admiral, I am detecting some unusual energy readings, but I cannot identify the source. Probably their communications array, Kexval dismissed. Begin the attack. Target their major cities first. That was when space around the Draxi fleet erupted into fire. Ships appeared from nowhere as stealth fields dropped. They materialized. From behind asteroids, from within gas clouds, from the dark spaces between planets. Sleek vessels that moved like living creatures, their hulls rippling with adaptive armor that seemed to flow like water. The human flagship Prometheus emerged directly in front of the Draxi formation. It was massive, larger than any ship in Kexval's fleet, but it moved with impossible grace for something so huge. All ships weapons free. Admiral Suna's voice cut through the chaos. Show them why the galaxy once feared human fire. The first salvo from human ships lit up space like a miniature sun. Solar torpedoes streaked toward Draxi vessels, each one containing the concentrated energy of a star's core. When they hit, entire cruisers simply vanished in blasts of pure light. Impossible, Kexval gasped. No weapons can generate that much power. His ship shuddered as human beam weapons struck its shields. But these were not normal energy beams. They seemed to bend and twist through space, finding weak points in Draxi armor that should not have existed. Admiral, his weapons officer screamed, our shields are failing. Their weapons are adapting to our defenses faster than we can compensate. The human ship Terra's Wrath unleashed something that made Kexval's blood freeze. Gravitational weapons that reached out like invisible hands and crushed 3 Draxi destroyers into balls of twisted metal. Space itself seemed to bend and warp around the targeted vessels. Retreat, Kexval ordered. All ships jump to hyperspace immediately. We cannot, Admiral, his navigator reported. They are jamming our hyperspace drives. We are trapped. Through his view screen, Kexval watched human fighters dance between his larger ships like deadly insects. They moved in patterns that defied physics, turning at angles that should have torn them apart, accelerating at speeds that should have killed their pilots. But the most terrifying sight was the orbital station designated New Sol. A Draxi boarding party had managed to breach its hull, expecting to find frightened civilians and light defenses. Instead, they found hell. Commander Dohyun led the human defenders with a fury that stunned the Draxi soldiers. His Marines fought for every corridor, every room, every meter of space. When their weapons ran out, they used tools, furniture, their bare hands. When they were wounded, they kept fighting. When they were dying, they sang. They fight like demons, gasped Captain Vrelix over the communication channel. His boarding party had been reduced from 200 soldiers to less than 50. No, not demons, something worse. They fight like humans. The songs echoing through. The station's corridors were ancient Earth battle hymns. Words in languages that had been spoken for thousands of years, carried forward by warriors who refused to surrender, Even when death was certain, Commander Do-hyun's final transmission was heard across the entire battle zone. Remember us, you alien scum. Remember that humans never bow, never break, never give up. Tell your children about the fire that burns in human hearts. The reactor core of New Seoul held for 18 hours against impossible odds. When it finally fell, the Draxi found only empty corridors and the echo of human voices singing songs of defiance. Admiral Kexval's flagship limped away from Earth with half its fleet destroyed and the survivors traumatized beyond repair. The Draxi who had boarded the human station spoke in whispers about defenders who seemed to be made of living flame. "Send word to the Federation Command," Kexval ordered with a broken voice. "Tell them the humans are not myths. Tell them the fire still burns. Tell them we have awakened something that should have stayed sleeping." The remnants of the Draxi war fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying news that would shake the galaxy. Humanity had returned not as diplomats or traders, but as the warriors of legend. The age of human fire had begun once more. President Woo-sung stood at the podium in the newly constructed assembly hall, looking out at representatives from nearly 300 species. The old Galactic Council chamber had been destroyed during the uprising that followed humanity's return. This new building was different, circular instead of hierarchical, with no elevated seats for supposedly superior species. The past 6 months had changed everything. The Draxi Federation had collapsed after their failed attack on Earth. The Karathi remnants had surrendered without firing a shot. Dozens of smaller empires had either joined the growing alliance or simply disappeared into the Outer Rim territories. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," President Woo-sung began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's advanced acoustics. "We gather today not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals seeking a better future for all our peoples." In the front rows sat the representatives who had suffered most under the old system. Ambassador Yelnara of the Velthani people wiped tears from her large eyes. Her species had been enslaved for 3 centuries by the Draxi, forced to work in their mining colonies until humanity's intervention freed them. General Hyunwoo stepped forward to address a question that had been troubling many delegates. "Some of you wonder why we hid for so long, why we allowed suffering to continue while we had the power to stop it." The chamber fell silent. This question had haunted diplomatic discussions for months. "The answer," Hyunwoo continued, "is that we were not ready. 300 years ago we were angry, vengeful, and dangerous. We would have become the very oppressors we fought against. We needed time to grow, to learn wisdom, to become worthy of the power we possessed." Ambassador Nari moved to the center of the chamber, carrying a simple document that would reshape galactic civilization. The Terran Accords were written on actual paper, an ancient human tradition that many species found quaint but strangely moving. "These accords establish 3 fundamental principles," Nari announced. "First, no species may claim dominion over another. Second, all beings have the right to determine their own fate. Third, technology and knowledge must be shared for the benefit of all, not hoarded by the few." The Kexhari delegate raised a clawed hand. His people had been raiders and pirates for generations, surviving by preying on weaker species. "Ambassador, Nari, what of those who have lived by conquest? What place is there for warriors in this new galaxy?" Captain Minjae of the Terran Marines stood to answer. His uniform bore scars from the recent liberation of the Velthani homeworld. "There will always be a place for warriors," honored Kexhari. "But true warriors protect the innocent, they do not prey upon them. We offer your people a chance to become guardians instead of raiders." The transformation was already beginning. Kexhari ships that had once terrorized trade routes now escorted refugee convoys to safety. Their natural aggression was being channeled into protecting those who could not protect themselves. Dr. Somin stepped forward to address another concern. She was small even by human standards, but her reputation as a healer had spread across the galaxy. "Many of you fear that human technology will make your own civilizations obsolete. This is not our intention." She activated a holographic display, showing medical advances that could eliminate genetic diseases, agricultural techniques that could feed entire worlds, and energy systems that could power civilizations without destroying their environments. We do not give these gifts to make you dependent, she explained. We share them because knowledge belongs to all thinking beings. Your scientists will improve upon our designs. Your engineers will find applications we never imagined. Together, we will achieve things none of us could accomplish alone. The crystalline delegate's voice chimed like breaking glass. And what of those who refuse these accords? What of species who prefer the old ways of dominance and submission? President Wusung's expression grew serious. They are free to choose isolation as we once did. But they may not impose their will upon others. The age of galactic empires built on conquest and slavery is ending. Admiral Jiho's presence at the back of the chamber served as a quiet reminder of the force that backed up these words. Human ships patrolled the space lanes, ensuring safe passage for traders and refugees alike. Former slave worlds were rebuilding with human assistance. War criminals faced trial in newly established courts of justice. Elder Archivist Velnara stood slowly, her ancient frame supported by a walking stick carved from earth wood, a gift from human diplomats. I have lived long enough to see the galaxy's darkest hours and now its brightest dawn. The myths I preserved were not just stories of destruction, but also of hope. Her voice grew stronger as she continued. The records spoke of human fire, yes, but they also spoke of human compassion, human sacrifice, human willingness to stand for those who could not stand for themselves. Today I see those prophecies fulfilled. One by one, representatives came forward to sign the Terran Accords. The Velthani ambassador wept openly as she pressed her seal to the document that would prevent any future enslavement. The reformed Kexhari leader pledged his ships to the cause of galactic peace. Even some former enemies participated. A delegation from the surviving Draxi colonies arrived to sue for membership, bringing with them freed prisoners and formal apologies for centuries of aggression. As the ceremony concluded, President Wusung looked up at the dome above the assembly hall. Through transparent aluminum panels, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel. Around it, ships from dozens of species worked, together to build new stations, new trade routes, new possibilities. The galaxy feared our return, he said quietly to Admiral Jiho. They expected conquest. Jiho smiled. Instead, they received something far more dangerous, hope. And hope, my friend, is the fire that burns brightest of all. The age of myths had ended. The age of unity had begun.